Bob, would you please stand and lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Cindy.
Trustee Fuller.
Here.
Trustee Gray.
Present.
Trustee Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Pollock.
Here.
Trustee Gray.
Here.
President
Here. Okay, we don't have any public hearings or appointments. Any public comments on items scheduled for action except for video game now? Public comment just before we go into that. Under tonight's consent agenda, we have approval of the minutes for December 4th and 18th, approval of the vouchers, and a resolution accepting the easement for property grouping. Any comments on any of those items? Okay, hearing none, let's close that portion. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make this one.
Second. Second by trustee Powell. Any requests to remove an item? Hearing none.
Question on Nelson, there's water leak in. We got approval there.
Let's take care of the consent agenda. Question during the trustee council. We have first and second, no request to remove an item. Roll call, please, Cindy.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Fuller.
Aye.
Trustee Murtaugh.
Aye. Okay, now general business, video gaming. We'll open it up for public comment. If we could, maybe have a person stand up and somebody speaks in favor of it, and if you agree, we don't need everybody to stand up and say the same thing. We iterate things, but you're more than welcome to stand up and say something you had opposed to. So at this time, I'd like to open up comment on video gaming. Can you lift this up forward? And please state your name and your residence address, please.
Sure. My name is David Smith. Hardest name you're gonna have all night. And I actually live in Crete, Illinois. My address is 24456 South Dorothy Drive, Crete. I'm actually a representative of an organization called Illinois Family Institute. We are a Christian nonprofit organization, and we are vehemently against expansion of gambling. And so I'm here tonight to encourage you not to bring gambling to the village of Sugar Grove. You should have received a packet from our organization with a research paper with multiple sources cited in it demonstrating the social harms of bringing gambling into your community. One of the professors is actually a University of Illinois professor who we cite. His name is John Kint, K-I-N-D-T. Professor Kint says that for every dollar the state raises in gambling revenue, it costs the state $3 in social costs. What are those social costs? We're talking increases in bankruptcies, crime, divorce, unemployment, DUIs, foreclosures, and of course a decrease in property values. Before you vote on this, I seriously encourage you to think about these things and what they will do to your community. And secondly, just as a side note, anecdotal evidence from my own life, when I was 21 years old, it's a long time ago now, I went down to Las Vegas with my brother. And before I left, my grandmother warned me. She said, "Hey Dave, just remember, Vegas wasn't built on winners." Now, it didn't really make much sense to me then. I gave Grandma a kiss and said, "Okay, bye, Grandma." Well, when I got to Vegas and saw the phenomenal excess, if anybody's been there, you know this, the floral arrangements as big as this room, the gold, the marble, the volcanoes that cost $20,000 per explosion, you know for a fact there are a lot of losers. And that's the point. It's not good public policy to bring gambling into your community. Because what you're doing is exploiting your own citizens to gain a revenue source. So that's all I have to say, is please consider the social costs and the fact that you're exploiting your own citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Anybody else?
My name is Louise Kaufman. I'm a 13-year resident of Sugar Grove. I live at 201 Hawkins Drive. While all of those points may be valid points, the fact is video gaming is legal in Illinois. It is legal in surrounding communities. And if we don't level the playing field for the businesses in our community to make them competitive with the businesses in other communities surrounding our village, then they will go elsewhere and spend their dollars elsewhere. I grew up in Berlin, and there were probably 4 taverns on every block. This is not like that. I don't think we're going to create a huge problem putting in a couple of video gaming machines in the region. I just think that once you start putting restrictions on businesses, even though the thing is legal in the state, that makes it unfair to the business that's doing and paying taxes to the township, to the village, and trying to do business in our community. And I think that in order for us to have a more level playing field, I think we should go ahead and okay video gaming in the near future.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm Reverend Vicki Hadaway, 176 Main Street. I'm the pastor at Sugar Grove United Methodist Church, and I speak against this resolution. First of all, we know that our great state doesn't always do wonderful things, so I don't know if we necessarily want to follow that down a new path. I think once we open the floodgates on this, we might not have a lot of people who want it right now, but once we open the floodgates, you can't close them. The other thing is, let me see what my notes are here. The United Methodist Church in general stands against gambling of any form. We feel that there's already enough places for people to go. There's already enough gambling in our state. And I agree with the man who spoke before that this preys on those who don't have the resources, and all it does is diminish their capacity to enable themselves to better themselves. So, I mean, I think as those that you have been entrusted to speak for us and to vote for things in our community, what do we want our community to reflect? What are our values? And the 150 members, families in our church say, we don't want video gambling. We do not want video gambling. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I don't like speaking in public. I'm Dave Smith. I'm the adjutant over here at Sugar Grove. And I appreciate Dave Smith coming all the way from Crete to tell us about what we shouldn't do and what we should do. And I appreciate the lady. Sandwich has got the gambling down there. They're doing good. We're in the process of, we're not going to be Las Vegas. We have, I think, 4 or 5 machines here that we're talking about, and you want to open this up to yeah, we're going to go out and buy 160 acres, and then we're going to bring all kinds of stuff. We're not talking about Las Vegas. We're not talking about Atlantic Boardwalk. We're talking about Sugar Grove. Now, a lot of people sit here and say, well, I'm against it, I'm for it. If they had to depend on me down at Aurora, they would starve.
I love to go out there. You can go down to Phillips 66 station and get any kind of card you want. Now you're talking about, you know, not gambling. Everywhere you go, there's a gambling. You know, it's legalized in government. It's legalized here in the state. The state made $1 million in November. They spread $200,000 to the communities, which we support here in not Las Vegas, not Atlantic City, not South Dakota. We support Sugar Grove. We are in that. We go through the kids in the high schools. We give them money for their baseball, their track. We try to get involved with the kids so they grow up better, not worrying about, you don't have to gamble if you don't want to gamble. Nobody's forcing you to come anywhere. How many times do you guys go down to down to Aurora? Aurora is prospering, not from the churches and not from the individual people, from the casino. You go to Joliet. We had the chance to get the Joliet racetrack out here in northern Hinckley. And people said, oh no, that's too much traffic and stuff. Joliet took it, and they're making millions. You want to satisfy, I don't know, it's just frustrating to me. You guys send the people out to get killed, to get maimed, and you just don't want to do a little thing like this to help the Wounded Warriors, to help the Red Cross, to help these other people out there, and you're bittering about 5 machines coming in. These guys hold the whole thing. There's another bar going out north, or west, excuse me. What happens if a year down the road he says, I want it? You know, it's not, it doesn't mean anything to me. The only thing it means to me is American Legion stays and the community for the next 10 years, 15 years. Right now we're on a bad economical downturn. We're not going to make it. Okay? And I don't appreciate people bringing in other people from Batavia or Crete or anywhere else and talk against it. And when it's got to be to the Sugar Grove. So that's all I got to say. You know, you guys, something happens, you want somebody to go out and defend you. And nothing, you know, I'm sorry.
Next, anybody?
My name is Cliff Parker. I'm the chaplain of the Sons of the American Legion, 148 West Street here in town. In regards to the gentleman in Crete, when he said Vegas wasn't built on losers, neither was Hollywood. New York City, they've got much bigger issues than Sugar Grove ever will have. We will not be Vegas. We will not be Hollywood. We will not be New York City. We'll be Atlantic City. We'll be lucky to be Junction City. Louise mentioned the main reason that I support video gambling is it is an equal footing for every business in town. I stand by the statement that I made at the previous meeting that you can't just throw a protected bubble over Sugar Grove and pretend like our residents aren't going to gamble. They just won't gamble here. We are not, we are a product of our own community. We must be trusted as part of our own community. I really think that, you know, 5 machines will not turn Sugar Grove into, you know, a den of poverty. I don't believe that. Some of the same faces I've seen here have been to Blackberry with their machines, so I have a little bit of an issue with that. A lot of things in this town could go to that, you know, the pastor from the Methodist Church was down on gambling for moral reasons. Well, beer is legal in this town, and so are cigarettes and lottery tickets, and so are bongs. We could be a dry town. We could pass an ordinance. We could be dry. Wouldn't stop alcohol sales. They're just going to go elsewhere. You cannot legislate a nanny state. You have to trust your citizens. Dave mentioned some of the public service that the Legion provides that will cease. We will award one scholarship, not an annual scholarship. We will no longer support the baseball, the packages for the troops. Cornwall, you'll lose volunteers all up and down the line. It's sad that it's come to this. It really shouldn't. I think it's much ado about nothing. I hope that I won't see your faces in a month or so and say, building's closed. It's not that we're trying to gain new revenue. We're trying to retrieve the revenue that we've lost. Our clientele, some would say, you know, that's our problem with our clientele not being faithful. Our clientele will go where the business is. It's legal. If they want to do it, they will go and they will do it. And they will spend their money on food. They will spend their money on beverages. They'll spend their money on just the gas to get there and back, to go elsewhere. Because 5 machines have terrified so many people that we will turn this town upside down. I don't believe it. Thank you for your time.
Someone else? State your name, your address.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is John Tom. I'm P.O. Box 1.
Address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Home address 14910 Osco Road in Osco, Illinois. I'm president of the Kane County Conservative Coalition. As a resident of the county for 20 years and the Kane School District for more than 5 years. First, I'd like to comment about some things that have been said already. Mr. Smith from the Legion talked about out-of-town individuals commenting. Yeah, at the last meeting, there were employees of the Legion who live out of town that commented. So I don't think we should pick on any individual regarding their residency, because isn't really what a town all about is trying to draw people into the town to spend money here. You know, we want people to go to the fireside, you know, and spend money there, go to the BP and buy gas. So where somebody's home residence is shouldn't really be the main factor here. You want to have a community that's a family-friendly community that draws people, you know, from all over the region, even the state. You know, so I'd like to take that off the table. Mr. Barker talked about trust your citizens. I think that really is the key issue that we are facing tonight. Does this board, does the village president trust the citizens of Sugar Grove in a free and fair and open referendum on April 9th to express their opinion? That's really what this is all about. It's not about, I personally don't like video gambling, but that's not the issue. The issue is, what do the majority of the citizens of Sugar Grove want? How can we find that out? One way to find it out is to let people come to a meeting and speak, but you're always going to miss people that way. We can do a poll, you know, but you know, who's going to pay for that and will it be fair? So the best way is a free and fair and open election. That's how we determine who our elected officials are up here, who they are at the state level, who they are at the federal level. So I would encourage this board to go forward with the referendum, you know, and see what the people say, and see what the majority of people think. I was looking over the proposed ordinance for tonight, and I think there's some issues that are going to arise if you do decide to try to pass this. If you look at section 1, number 5, it says that any individual who knowingly possesses any money which he has received in the course of a bet or wager, you know, is an Sugar Grove. Do you really want to do that? My 12-year-old son here, we occasionally exchange $1 and $2 bills over football games. That would be illegal. To do that. Just be careful what you write, because when you create a law, as everyone here knows, it can be enforced. And I don't want to be regulating small dollar bets between families and friends, but that's what you do under number 5, section 1. Section 1, number 6 talks about you can't be betting on any game or contest of skill or chance, political nomination, appointment, or election. Couple friends bet on who's going to be the next village president, $5. Well, that's a crime now. So just be careful what you write here. I think this thing requires a lot more thought. But the easiest answer and the best answer and the most democratic answer, is simply to take it to people for vote. One last comment. I've heard several people say it's just 5 machines. Yeah. No, it's more than that, because when you pass this, if you choose to pass this, then anyone with a liquor license in town will have the machines. And you may attract more people coming to town who want to have a liquor license and want to open a place for video gambling. It's happened in other parts of Illinois. There's one town where a lady with a flower shop serves wine. Now she has gambling machines there. So you may have multiple new applicants. So you can't just say, well, it's okay for the Legion to have it, but no one else can have it. It's got to be everybody, which is going to be more than 5 machines, or nobody. So please take that into account. Thanks for your time.
I'm Barb Massa. I live at 233 Caledonia. I'm here to support our vets. They deserve our respect, honor, and most of all, our gratitude for what they've done for our country. I understand with these hard economic times that our American people is facing a very difficult financial situation, and I would like to support them in any appropriate way. However, I believe that we do them a disservice when we take a position that to support them, we must immediately support gambling in Sugar Grove. This is a false choice. Because it states that to help one group, our American Legion, we must hurt the larger community and its property values that group belongs to, which is the village of Sugar Grove. It is also a disservice to the people of Sugar Grove who are scheduled to vote on this topic within months. To open the back door to gambling now would be a slap in the face to the voting process of our village. Everyone knows that gambling and related issues always grow larger and stronger, never smaller. It's virtually impossible to tell the gambling industry to leave your city once they have a foothold in it. Therefore, I urge the village board to not allow gambling immediately, but to wait until the people vote. Creative people such as yourselves could possibly come up with a way to help the American Legion in the next couple of months. I personally would not like to see gambling in Sugar Grove. I believe it would harm the village and especially the property values here. I fully realize that some of you may strongly support gambling in our village. Why don't we wait and see what the majority of the people want? If they choose for gambling, I will respect that vote, and I would hope that if they choose against it, that you would also abide by that choice. Again, I urge you not to change the current ban on gambling in Sugar Grove at this time. Let's wait until the election.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Kathy Gilroy, 230 West Division, Villa Park. Good evening. No one has paid me to be here, nor would I profit no matter how you vote on one-armed bandits. I was so proud of this board when you banned them in August. I thought, finally, a town that is not run by lemmings, following others off the cliff to self-destruction. States and countries that legalized one-armed bandits many years ago are now banning them. Is Sugar Grove doomed to repeat their history because you're not able to learn from it? John Locke famously said, quote, "Government has no other end but the preservation of property, unquote. Do you think gambling in town accomplishes that goal of government? Law without morals is tyranny. No one is born an addicted gambler. Yet, over 9,000 people in Illinois have become so addicted that they have volunteered to be arrested if they are caught in an Illinois casino. They do not have that fear hanging over their heads at neighborhood gambling joints. One-armed bandits in Sugar Grove would attract addicted gamblers. On January 4th, the spokesman for the gaming board said that video gambling is going, quote, hog wild, unquote. Could those 9,000 people be one of the reasons? 10 casinos were legalized with the promise of fleecing mainly tourists. It was found to be a lie, because clientele of even large casinos come mainly from within a close radius of the casino. Sugar Grove doesn't even have the tourism excuse. The more accessible gambling is, the more likely that those who try it, your friends, neighbors, or relatives, will become addicted to it. People go to casinos with the intent to gamble. Neighborhood gambling seduces those who are in the process of doing something else. Freedom without morality leads to self-destruction. The proposed slots are not penny ante. How many times can you push a button per minute? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. That's 60. Let's say 25. At $2 per bet, that is $50 per minute, or $3,000 per hour. At a 90% payout rate, a Sugar Grove family would lose $300 per hour. How many hours would it take a Sugar Grove dad to lose his paycheck, or mom to lose her mortgage payment? 3? How many hours is the American Legion open? You could lose the maximum jackpot in as little as an hour. Did you know that the slots do not accept coins? Paper money only. You might as well say the minimum bet is $1. At a 1% addiction rate, which 90 Sugar Grove residents are you willing to sacrifice on the altar of profit? According to the California Council on Problem Gambling, over 60% of addicted gamblers commit crimes to support their habit. Which 54 neighbors do you nominate to be reduced to first-time criminals because of Sugar Grove slots? The American Legion showed over $66,000 profit on their 2010 federal income tax return without legal video gambling. Do you rank greater profits for them as more important than a friend who loses everything to gambling? The very first Riverboat Casino had a $5 bet limit. Doesn't that sound quaint now? Do you want that same progression right here in town? Let me pose the progression a different way. First, food and drink sales decrease because that money is going into slots. Sales at other Sugar Grove businesses decrease because that money is also going into slots. Employees embezzle from their employers to play the slots. Then the money in the slots is taxed at a higher rate by the county and state, hurting Sugar Grove bars. Does that sound like a good business plan for Sugar Grove bars or the village of Sugar Grove? A new Illinois business model is a hole-in-the-wall joint with 5 slots and a liquor license, catering to middle-aged women. Would you allow more liquor licenses in town to accommodate that type of business? When is enough enough? On the agenda tonight are both an ordinance to allow one-armed bandits in town and a non-binding referendum. What is the point of asking residents what they think if slots are already legalized? The ordinance says nothing about being temporary. Once one-armed bandits arrive, it is nearly impossible to get rid of them. Besides, good law is not made by opinion polls. Vices are enjoyable. People want them. That does not mean that they should get whatever they want. Would you ask a child if they should be allowed to have more candy? You have the ability to control where addictive activities are allowed. Smoking is legal. Do you allow it in this room? Alcohol is legal. Do you allow drinking in cars? Slots are legal at casinos. Do you want them in Sugar Grove businesses? Please vote no on slots in Sugar Grove and the referendum. The least you could do is delay your decision and wait to see how badly one-armed bandits hurt the residents of other towns. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. If you would, please try to keep your comments.
I asked this lady where she got the 2010 $66,000.
I got that from,
I'd like to know that, because we're sure
We
we
can,
can know where you got it from.
You can ask her.
I'll answer after the meeting.
Brad Nassif, 233 Caledonian, Sugar Grove. I don't have the speech, I wasn't planning on one, I just want to make a couple of comments. I do think it's best for our city not to have these gambling facilities. However, I do want to express my appreciation for the American Legion. And if there's any way we can do, they're obviously having financial problems, and anything we can do as a community, I think it's very important for us to get behind them and to figure out other ways for them to be prosperous and successful, because we appreciate everything you do, and everybody that's a part of your organization is absolutely honorable society, and anything we can do, if this other thing doesn't pass, I'd be happy to help organize anything to help you out of the financial needs. I'm not wealthy enough to come up with it.
Anyone else?
So I would say a couple of things. I'm not going to go for or against or Keith Duff, pastor of Village Bible Church here in Sugar Grove. And I guess I would just, leaving that meeting in October, I would just ask that we be men and women of integrity. The plan then was to not bring it, to not allow it until the people brought it before a vote. I think as a people votes for it and against it, I think the wise thing to do is to bring it before people as a binding vote, so that if people are for it, and you don't have to risk the potential of putting it in and then taking it out. It's foolish to do it when you can change. A binding vote changes that for good when it's voted by the people. Even this question, whatever this potential question referendum doesn't bind anything. It's non-binding. So we need to do that. We need to band together, whichever side we're on, so that it's official. And while I don't want it, if the people vote for it, I think, as you said, Mr. Barker, I agree with you that while I don't want it, when people speak, they speak. And so I think we've all done a disservice to the board to not bring it up for a binding vote in April. We need to make sure it gets brought up in the fall. And I will say too, I know the board is sensitive to the Legion, as Mr. Nassif just said, and I think the Legion has said you're hoping to raise some $2,000 a month to keep the Legion afloat. And I could get in trouble for this, but I will commit. If we can wait until April for the people to voice at least an informal, and they don't have to do anything with that, but to voice their thoughts. As a church, I'd be willing to support for the next 3 months that $2,000. So to cover that $6,000 you guys need to float to get to April. That's really the issue of this meeting. You can keep them afloat for April, and let's keep them afloat for April. Maybe others, maybe Brad, others would help offset that $2,000. But that's the issue. We can come up with money to get to April for you guys, and I'll commit to that. Keep you guys afloat and bring it up for a vote. So, but if that's what the need is, $6,000 is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money when in light of the need to bring it before the people. So, if that helps. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor Michaels, trustees. My name is John Bilkins. I'm a resident at 152 Vale Avenue. As I was doing some research on this topic, it's obviously very difficult to find any unbiased data, any unbiased studies, depending on which data you're reading from different specific groups. But I did come across this document. On August 3rd, 1996, President Bill Clinton signed into law the National Gambling Impact Study Commission Act. And this legislation established the National Gaming Impact Study Commission in 1997 to conduct a comprehensive legal and factual study of the social and economic impacts of gambling in the United States. The study lasted 2 years. There was testimony from thousands, a lot of work from a lot of people. In 1999, this commission released its final report. And one thing that's interesting is this report, which is rather lengthy. It reads, it's an easy read, but it's not. It was also designed to help civic leaders such as yourselves in defining policy in relation to gambling as well. Because again, it is very difficult to find unbiased data and information regarding gambling. I'd like to just bring to light a few of the excerpts. I'm going to quote this document. If you haven't read this, I would highly recommend that you do, especially in Chapter 7, which outlines the impact of gambling on those people. And I think you'll find it a very informative document. Quoting the document, many communities, often those suffering economic hardship and social problems, consider gambling as a panacea. Yes, I did have to look that word up. To those ills. Indeed, a number of communities plagued by high unemployment have found a form of economic renewal through gambling, particularly the development of destination resorts. In addition, state, local, and tribal governments have received substantial revenues from taxes on gambling enterprises and lottery receipts. However, there are costs associated with these decisions, and gambling cannot be considered a panacea for all economic problems in a community, and panacea being defined as a remedy for all ills or difficulties. They quoted John Kenneth Galbraith, and the famous economist, in this document that people are the common denominator of progress. Economic progress can only be measured by its impact on individuals. One of the conclusions they came up with was this, that gambling, like any other viable business, creates both profits and jobs. But the real question, the reason gambling is an issue in need of substantially more study, is not simply how many people work in the industry, nor how much they earn, nor even what tax revenues flow from gambling, but the central issue is whether the net increases in income and well-being are worth the acknowledged social costs of gambling. I'm going to read that last sentence again, because I think that's really where the crux of the issue is, and why we had such a polarized representation on both sides of this. The central issue is whether the net increase in income and well-being are worth the acknowledged social costs of gambling. I did want to read just one. At the end of Chapter 7, they have a whole list of recommendations. I did want to read number 4. It reads this. The Commission recommends to state, local, and tribal governments that when considering the legalization of gambling or the repeal of gambling that is already legal, they should recognize that lotteries, internet gambling, and non-casino electronic gambling devices do not create a concentration of good quality jobs and do not generate significant economic development. So I want to stop for a minute too, because I also would like to address fellow residents and citizens of the American Legion. I too would like to say thank you for what you do for our communities. Thank you for the way you honor our vets. We do stand and appreciate everything that you do, and I would stand beside you guys in every single issue, everything that you do, except in this one issue of bringing gambling to Sugar Grove. So I certainly want to thank you for what you do, and as Pastor Keith just stated, as a member of Village Bible Church as well, we certainly would do all we can to help you keep your doors open, if that's what it comes down to, until this issue goes to a referendum. We hear what the will of the people is, the residents of Sugar Grove. In closing is this, the introduction from the chairwoman of this entire 2-year study. She says this, with only a few exceptions, such as the internet, we agree that gambling is not a subject to be settled at the national level, but is more appropriately addressed at the state, tribal, and local levels. And I would agree with her. This is not federal government to decide. Thank you, the Lord, it's not to our state to decide, but it's us, it's you at the local level, that need to adequately and appropriately address this issue. Again, as I stated before, last meeting, that you were elected on good faith people to do what you feel is best for the people of the town of Sugar Grove. And it's our hope and prayer that you would make the right decision, keep the ban on video gambling that was enacted back on the 4th of September of 2012. Let it go to the will of the people, let the people decide us, and that way the true voice of the people can be heard. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
Happy New Year. My name is Melissa Taylor. I live at 880 Longview Court in Sugar Grove. I'm also the Kane County Board Representative that represents all of Sugar Grove. I appreciate everything you guys do, and Happy New Year, as you know. I have to tell you, this issue, I've watched this over the last couple of months, this issue alone has divided this community. It's divided it in two different, everybody has an opinion on this. I've never seen this happen in this town before, the division like this. And that concerns me, because one of the reasons I came to this town, like most of us, is because of the united element in this community, and that's precious to me. It's no disrespect to anyone's opinion one way or the other. Obviously, you know, I don't want the gambling in this town, but that's my personal opinion. Myself as an elected official, I want the voters to tell me what they want. The majority of the voters are not in this room today, no disrespect to everyone that is here. However, I really think right now, let this go to the vote and let the voters tell you. And I have to tell you, once that vote comes in, either way, we want it or we don't, that will help all of these factions start to unite and come back together. And I think that right there alone is drastically important in this town, in this nation, right now today.
Anybody else? All right, that's it. Okay. Thank you all for coming and speaking, and everybody did all from the statement back to the position. Thank you. Okay, so on the agenda, we have an ordinance to authorize video gaming, and then a resolution authorizing the video gaming advisory referendum. Do I have a motion to move forward with the ordinance authorizing video gaming?
One week will actually be subject to attorney review.
Okay.
Motion on this. And then there are a couple corrections to it that Steve talked about.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we table authorizing video gaming until referendum can be done in April.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion to table takes precedence, so when there's no debate on the motion to table, just
Okay. Roll call, please, Cindy.
Trustee Garrett?
Aye.
Trustee Pollock?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
No.
Trustee Ray?
Aye.
Trustee Boland?
No.
Trustee Montalto?
Three. Yeah. Trustee Garrett.
Johnson? No. Ray? No.
No. Yes. I don't.
just to be clear, technically, you have the right but not the obligation to vote. You don't have to vote. If you vote, it's whatever it is. If you don't vote, the motion would fail because it's 3-3.
Okay. I'll vote in favor of, or vote no against tabling this ordinance. Okay. Then, according to my tally, the motion fails. Okay. Motion to approve the ordinance of video gaming.
I'll make that motion subject to attorney review.
Second. Steve, do you want to elaborate on the changes?
Yes, one thing we caught this afternoon, and then one thing I caught as I was sitting, go with the easy one first, which is the one that I caught sitting here. The second whereas, the third paragraph down, says the village wishes to amend section blah, blah, the village should for the ordinances to ban video gaming. That should be to permit video gaming. It's a minor typographical error, so that's like that. This ordinance is actually permitted, not banned. The more important change was in section A3, so section 1, section 8, subsection 3. That section deals with the manufacture, distribution, repair of gambling equipment. We had amended that in September to deal with a manufacturing ban in town. to make it clear that you weren't making it illegal for him to conduct his business here. However, he couldn't conduct his business, he couldn't license the machines in Sugar Grove. So we had that language in it. The version that was on the website available to the public didn't acknowledge that, so we had to tweak it so that it's clear that if this ordinance passes, the manufacturer, distribution, et cetera, can also occur in the village. It's minor, it doesn't affect what you're dealing with here tonight, the full request, what we had to affect it. The version you had at your table is the correct version of that. So, again, minor and not significant to tonight's discussion. The other thing I wanted to point out, though, just as a matter of clarification, is one of the gentlemen talked about sections 5 and 6, and being concerned about the impact of those. Just so you understand, that's the way the ordinance reads today, and it's probably read that way since 1960, or when the village passed its first ordinances. It also reflects the Illinois Criminal Code, which is where this was taken from. So while we all hopefully understand that football pools and residential pools and such are illegal technically, I don't think there's any real risk of the police enforcing that sort of thing. So again, it's not the issue you're dealing with, but I didn't want there to be the misunderstanding that somehow we wrote this all for tonight. The only sections that are being affected are 1, A1, and A.
All right. John, if I may, there's a couple other comments that I think I'd like to comment on just for clarification. There's a couple of comments about if it's here, getting rid of it. The way the law is right now, the village board, absent a binding referendum, can approve gaming, can turn around, forbid gaming, could turn around, approve it again. It could go back and forth as often or never, up to any village board at any given time's choice. So if gaming is allowed, the board always has the right under current state law to prevent that. Whether that's easy or hard to do is ultimately a policy decision. But if you approve it tonight or a year from now or 2 years from now, you could at any time take that right away. Just want to make sure, so we have certainly some new guests here tonight. The other comment came up about if we allow gaming, there will be more facilities in town. Sugar Grove, like many municipalities, only has a certain number of liquor licenses available at any given time, and Sugar Grove is a matter of policy for more than 10 years, and probably again, maybe back to 1960 when we were incorporated, only has a number of liquor licenses as there are current license holders in the village. There are no available licenses and aren't at any given time, so there's no license for any new business to come in and apply for. The board, again, at their decision, could create new licenses at any time, with or without video gaming. But if video gaming is allowed, no one can quick run in and apply for a liquor license and then be allowed to have video gaming. There's no license to give right now. Last month, there was a comment about a binding referendum. To have a binding referendum in April, petitions had to be submitted yesterday. So it is too late to have a binding referendum on the April ballot. I don't know off the top of my head if there's a general election this fall. I believe whatever the next general election is.
The spring of 14.
Assuming that's correct, that would be the next opportunity for a binding referendum. Just so everybody knows, as we sit here tonight, it cannot happen in April, so there's no petition submitted by yesterday.
Can you explain that a binding referendum has to be citizen-driven?
Yes, a binding referendum is a citizen-driven petition, and within the state law, there's the lays out, the percentage of registered voters, how many signatures, and there's a fairly significant number of registered voters would have to sign that petition. But that's for the state vote. But that isn't something that the village board can initiate or do. That does come from the citizens.
And that one sticks for the long term, is that right?
Yes, if that's done, that's it. Unless I suppose there could be another referendum. But that again, the threshold of signatures to make that happen is pretty significant. That it's probably unlikely that you'd have that come up multiple times, but certainly it could. But yeah, if a binding referendum passes, that's the decision unless there's a new one.
Thank you. I have one question.
Sure.
With what Pastor Keith had said about helping the Legion out with dollars. I don't know if we want to table this tonight or not, for the Legion to kick it around on that $2,000 to see if we could until we have the advisory referendum. I don't know if that makes any sense, but, you know, if you guys want to think about it, then we should take it too, so. That was new information that I was not aware of, and started to consider that.
And I also had a question, is if we do vote to temporarily approve this, and in April it's rejected, what cost to the Legion would there be for them to bring in the games and have to remove them? And if you're not getting your $2,000 a month, as you states that you think that says you need to break even, what's your plan B? I mean, what I want to do is to make sure you don't incur any unnecessary costs if the referendum fails in April.
Bringing them in and taking them out, we worked out with Jay, it's $100, pay the guys.
No.
No,
It's your establishment. It's your establishment.
It's the establishment license, I'm
That's
sorry.
all your help.
Okay.
And whatever
If there's, you know, no fee for him.
I just want to make sure that there's no extra burden on you guys. And if, as I've asked, is if these revenues do not come in as projected, or is what you need to stay afloat. You've said a couple of times that you run the risk of closing your doors. What's plan B? If the video gaming does not give you the revenue that you think you need.
I think they just want the opportunity. It's that we don't know what it's going to generate. But it employs a lot of people, a lot of food. But just give them the opportunity and let them figure out what they need to do. You guys don't give them the opportunity. That's all we're looking for is the opportunity.
I said, one thing I missed in my notes, clarification, there's been a couple references to the referendum in April. That's the next item on your agenda. As we sit right now, there is no referendum in April, either certainly not binding, but not even advisory. It's the next one of these action items that you may or may not approve tonight. So this is, again, a minor correction, but I know there were several statements about the April referendum.
And I would submit that by holding the vote the way we're doing it, I will have to vote no on the video gambling. Whereas if the resolution for the advisory referendum were in place, I would consider voting in a positive way. So please be aware of that.
If that's a concern of the board, Steve has advised that the board could make a motion to amend the agenda to switch the order.
I would make that motion.
Okay,
I'll remove my motion.
Okay. And then, Tom?
I'll make the motion that we, that we authorize the video gaming advisory referendum for the April election.
I'll second it.
All right. Okay. Discussion on the video gaming advisory referendum. Again, just for clarification, we did not receive enough, or any petitions, to have a non-binding, or have a binding referendum. So we didn't receive any petitions for a binding referendum, so the option is for the board to pass this resolution to authorize the video gaming advisory referendum. And that's basically submitting things to the county clerk to have that referendum put on ballot. And by state statute, the language is set forth as to what we.
The language that we put in the ordinance is shall video gaming be prohibited in the Sugar Grove, because that comes straight out of the video gaming statute. Now, of course, the video gaming statute contemplates the binding referendum. This is a non-binding public question. So theoretically, you can make it say anything you want, but if you're trying to be consistent with the video gaming statute, this is the language you should use.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Steve out there?
Yes, I'd make a comment here, and one of the common themes among everyone that has spoke tonight, and that is an issue of trust. Trust in the board, trust in the people. It concerns me greatly to put the cart before the horse and not put the trust in the people that have asked us to sit here and get them to answer the question, is this something that they want in their community? Yes or no? And I'm not gonna define what yes means or what no means, because we went through that in the last meeting. But I think it's an important enough issue that the public should speak clearly to this board as to what they want. So I'm absolutely in favor of a non-binding referendum. I had hoped that the two groups could have gotten together and put together a binding. You know, life gets busy. Maybe in the future that might occur. But in this case, I'm willing to abide by whatever the referendum question answer is. And in my mind, that's the answer that of the people, what they want.
Was there some clarification?
With Steve's comment, I don't speak for Dave, he even asked prior, if you want me to bring it up, is the question is, would it be clearer to the voters if the question is, should video gaming be allowed in Sugar Grove versus prohibited? Personally, don't have an opinion on that.
Can we change it to that?
Yes, you could, but again, you're now departing from the language that the Illinois statute contemplates. You can, because this is a non-binding referendum. You can say whatever you want. But I would think that you would want to stay fairly close to it, if not exactly consistent with it. So that people are voting on the same thing. That
The question does seem very convoluted, Shell.
Oh, that's all right.
That's why I asked for it out.
But I think, if the board, wanted to change it to allow, it would be an amendment to the motion in the second.
I would make that motion because I too agree that it makes more sense that we currently do not allow. Therefore, if we are going to, if the public is inclined to approve it, it should be that they would be allowing it. And thus it would be a yes vote allowing, if they did in fact want us to change the video gaming criteria that we have currently. So I would make the motion to amend my motion, simply adding the word allowed instead of prohibited.
I'll hold a second.
Any other discussion?
Thank you.
All right.
Fair enough. Roll call, Steve.
Okay, the motion is to honor the video gaming advisory report and changing the rules of it to allow subject to cover. Trustee Green?
Aye.
Trustee Montgomery?
I'm going to vote aye on this also. But I want to make a comment that I did initially say I'm opposed to it. Personally, I'm still opposed to gaming in town. And I'm happy to abide by whatever the citizens say too. I'll go either way. But at this point, I don't want to see what we can close either. If they're going to close their doors, and I think the church can use that $2,000 to put to better use than trying to keep another business afloat. Okay.
Trustee Gary?
Aye.
Trustee Bowler?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
No.
Trustee Pollak?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, so we will have a non-binding referendum. Back to item under general business 8. Can I get a motion to authorize video conferencing?
I'll make that motion, subject to attorney review.
Any other discussion?
I would just renew my concern that this is putting the cart before the horse. I think we're taking an action without actually hearing it from our people, from our citizens. We've heard compassionate arguments on both sides of this issue. And I would agree with Melissa that it has somewhat divided the community, but I think for that reason, and maybe many more, it is so important to put it on the ballot, hear what the people have to say, and then we can do as King Solomon has done, and that's world lasting. So.
Okay. It is going on the ballot. Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call, please, Cindy.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
No.
Trustee Ballard?
Aye.
Trustee Ray?
No.
Motion carries.
Okay. All right, so video games will be allowed for now, and then we can take action after the election, after the referendum.
Okay, thank you all for coming, we appreciate it. Again, it's a democratic process, so please respect people on the opposite side. We'll take a 5-minute recess to let people leave if they like. Thank you.